Hi, I'm Hazel. It's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I've been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, I'm going to take a minute to talk about the leaks that have been leaked. So if you've been avoiding those and you don't want to hear anything about it, then skip ahead to the next timestamp chapter down below. And if you're still here, I'm going to assume that you have already heard. And that is that the new concept for the next expansion, according to several website leaks and then data mining quite a while ago of an item string for a potential special collector's edition mount ID, based on those things, it seems incredibly likely that we are going to get a Dragonflight expansion. There are no details, so I don't feel too weird about talking about this. It's not like a whole feature list that got leaked from a graphic. They've just kind of left some notes about the name and then, domain registering, that kind of thing. So the only word we have so far is Dragonflight, but that's not all that surprising. That's been one of the main kind of contenders for where they could go next with expansions for a while. And the last time that I feel like we had a lot of really dragon-centric storylines was Dragon Soul, because they kind of phased out after the whole Dragon Soul thing. It's not that we didn't have Wrathion or whatever. There was some dragon stuff going on, but for the most part, it's been a while, and I feel like it's going to be fresh again. This is a rumor, but based on the evidence that's come out so far, I feel like it's fairly credible, although I also think it would be hilarious if they had somehow seeded this falsely, like if they had planted false clues in a really convincing way, and then they come out on April 19th when they're actually announcing the expansion, and just come out with something wildly different. That would be very funny to me, but I doubt it. We'll see, but I doubt it. As far as what the Dragonflight expansion could bring, that is still fully speculation. One thought that's been coming up a lot in the conversations that I've been having about it is, would the Dragonflight concept mean a new version of Covenants? Would they do kind of a new evolved version of Covenants based on the Dragonflights? And if so, how would they do them differently? Because Covenants have not proven to be the most wildly popular feature of Shadowlands, even if they have been very central. There's been a lot of drama about Covenants in the last couple of years in terms of their restrictions and in terms of flexibility and in terms of the amount of grind it takes to catch up in them. And I'm curious as to if they're brave enough to try and keep the concept, if there's anything from it that they like enough to try to bring forward. What parts would those be? Would they do like a join your Dragonflight thing, but have it be more flexible from the outset? Would they make it largely cosmetic with maybe just one or two power things tied to it instead of like the plethora of player power that's tied to your Covenant currently? Is there no way that they're touching Dragonflights with a 10-foot pole and they'll just be reputations to grind and there's no joining involved? Who's to say? I personally would not be frothing mad if they did kind of another Covenant system, as long as they made it way more flexible and swappable from the start. Maybe not like between every raid boss swapping, but kind of what we have now with current Covenants. And then also if you make it largely cosmetic based and not so much power and specific things tied to it. I could have done without soulbinds and conduits in Shadowlands altogether. I think that would have simplified things a lot, and also remove a lot of the obligation to farm and catch up with your Covenants. So those are some of my thoughts. I'm interested to hear what you guys think on it. I think it would be just a risky thing to do on a popularity basis, because not very many people are feeling hot on Covenants right now, so it would be bold for them to do it again. But the Dragonflight does come with some built-in teams, so we'll see. Other things this week in the live game and facts that we know about: Pocopoc customizations have been found, and by found, we're pretty sure they just turned them on, because they've started dropping from rares and treasures and other likely Zereth Mortis activities, whereas up until this point there had been nothing. Wowhead has a current running list of the known sources for the different Pocopoc options, and it is worth noting that any customization changes you make to your Pocopoc will carry through to the pet version of the Pocopoc, the Traveler Pocopoc you can get off of the Olia vendor. When you have that out with you, for example in Raid, you can not only use any of the different hat options that you've collected, but your Pocopoc will look like the options that you've selected back at the customization console in the holo. So that's fun. And then because it's a pet, it also works with all of your standard pet toys. So you can put it on a cranky crab, you can make yourself look like your Pocopoc with a pet mirror, you can use the Forgotten Feather toy from Korthia to make your Pocopoc fly with wings, all kinds of options. This week also saw some patch 9.2.5 news, and the big one was this blue post detailing how Renown Catchup is going to become much easier in patch 9.2.5. You've got lots of people coming back to WoW lately from breaks or considering starting alts, and once this is in, this is going to help you at least get the soulbinds unlocked very quickly. They are making the accelerated catch-up now last until Renown 60, and there will be a guaranteed 1 Renown from like a Torghast Wing 9 through 16, from completing a Mythic or Mythic Plus dungeon, from killing any raid boss, or an RBG win, which feels like it would take dramatically longer than the rest of those other things, but you know, if you're doing RBGs anyways. I think that Torghast spam is absolutely going to be the fastest thing for people to just smash out, as well as the most soloable or duoable. So if you're trying to catch up on Renown in 925, this is not a hotfix, this is a next patch thing, but if you're working on Renown then, that's going to be the way to go. But it's nice that you can just kind of get your Renown done, hopefully really painlessly, especially if you are doing Zereth Mortis campaign on that ult. Those campaign chapters are going to give you tons of Renown, so that should not be a huge part of your character catch-up. You should be focusing most of your time on your gear. Speaking of gear, there are hints of a new thing coming in 925, potentially for Season 4, of raid gear upgrading. The 2 hints that we have so far, one of them is these placeholder raid gear vendors that are themed to each of the 3 raids. And then the other thing are these data mine strings referencing ciphers that you can get inside of the raid that you can exchange to like upgrade an empowered raid item. Because this is all data mining and not announced yet, we do not understand how this works, so I would try to keep your happiness or your anger at a reasonable level for the time being, because we just don't know. But I think that as a concept, this makes a lot of sense. Currently, Mythic Plus gear can be upgraded with Valor, PvP gear can be upgraded, and raid gear is the only gear from current endgame content that will always stay as you got it, you know, short of like popping a socket onto it. So I feel like it's sort of a natural progression of gearing in WoW for raid gear to get an upgrade path. The big question for me is, will you be able to use this upgrade system to upgrade your raid gear into a quality level from a difficulty you're not clearing? Like, could you just raid heroic and raid heroic long enough that you can then bring your gear up to a mythic point? Or is it going to work more like the current, like the Mythic Plus and the PvP ones do, where there's an achievement requirement as well, and it's more about catching up your pieces that are getting left behind, kind of the bad luck protection? Like maybe a Mythic Raider would be able to take a pesky heroic piece they haven't been able to replace and then upgrade it to Mythic using currency. I think that second one is more likely, just because in Mythic Plus you get your currency and you also need a rating requirement to unlock upgrades. And for PvP, you need your currency, but you also need a rating requirement. So my guess is that it would make a lot of sense for them to require a certain level of raid clearance before they let you start upgrading your gear to that level. But I don't know, I'm making things up. That feels like the sort of thing that we'll get more details on soon. And then in my life this week, I finished the Zereth Mortis meta achievement and got my Cryptic Auralid mount. There was a rare or two that were being really stubborn and just refusing to be up for the day, but I finally got them all. I have my Cryptic Auralid. It looks like this. And I would say that after having done it, this is probably the easiest zone meta achievement that we have seen for a long, long time. And if you have been doing Zereth Mortis activities, it's worth taking a look to see how close you are to A to Zereth. Just because there may be something really easy or really straightforward you could do to unlock this mount. So take a look if you haven't already. I also got my 4-piece out of my vault. I finally had a lucky vault. I had a tier piece to choose from that gave me 4-piece, so I've been trying to get the most use of that, out of that I can while progressing through the raid. We're currently in Heroic. We killed Anduin this week, and now we're working on Lords of Dread, and that's proving to be just as tough as Anduin was for us last week, so definitely not going to fall over. And then for a question from this week, Stefan wants to know, what do you think of a Bard class? Wouldn't you think that it would be a great addition to the classes we already have, a pure support class without high healing output? I think that's a bit of a leading question. I do not think that a pure support class without strong throughput is going to work in WoW, and I could be wrong, but my opinion is that they kind of tried that already in Classic with Shamans and Paladins that were very much about bringing buffs and bringing support, but without a lot of strong throughput of their own. And I feel like the verdict was that it doesn't feel great in WoW to have something that is mandatory to bring to raid, but doesn't feel terribly powerful by itself. The one thing that I think could change that would change my mind is if WoW came up with a great way to quantify your own contributions to other people's throughput. Like if there was a way for details to tell you how much extra damage you enabled other characters to do, and there was a way to track your performance, I feel like that would make that kind of spec more appealing for me, but maybe it's just a me thing and I'm just too numbers focused in PvE. I just don't feel like there's a huge niche available for it, especially because classes already have great support utility and they haven't had to give up throughput for it. So I don't know if the trade-off makes sense for WoW, but I could absolutely be wrong. Now, based on just the theme, I don't have a problem with bards. I just don't know that a pure support class would... I don't think they would add a pure support class to WoW because of what a big risk it is with nebulous payoff. And that has been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions for one of these videos, please pop it in the comments and include the word question to help me find it. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.